Good evening and welcome back to Tough Talking Thursday. Tonight we want to look at a topic that concerns us all, our human resource. We want to examine our people and what they contribute to the bottom line of both our companies in the private and public sector. Tonight on set with me is none other than Mr. Hanif Benjamin. He's the CEO of the Center for Human Development, a psychological and counseling company that works with both young and old to bring out the best in them and make them more productive citizens. So we want to get right into it and discuss this topic that, as I said, concerns us all, because this is the glue that keeps all companies and the economy together, our people. Good evening, Hanif Benjamin. Welcome to the program.
Thank you a lot, Joel, for having me.
Absolutely. I want to remind our viewers as well that you are free, of course, to join the conversation, as you always do, by calling us at the numbers on your screen, 675-8747 or 675-8749. Please, also, you're free to join us on our Facebook page or at gisltd.tt/TV-4. So we're talking our people. We've been talking before about trade. We talked about facts and figures, numbers, the Moody downgrade. But I think behind it all is a human being. Yeah.
It's the people.
So we really want to dig a little deeper tonight, and I think you are a person well poised and situated to discuss this topic and enlighten us a little bit. And you don't mind if we ask you a few tough questions?
Oh, it is tough talking Thursday,
yes.
So I would expect none less. So so I'm ready.
Absolutely. But tell me first, I mean, technology has evolved. It has got us to a place where things seem a lot easier to do, and you would think that the workplace is getting more machine-oriented, to put it that way, and therefore we have less and less need for our people. Is that a correct assessment? How important is the human resource to the success?
I think the human resource is the key, the engine room behind any organization, one. And when I say organization, we can take it tiers higher, the community and the country as a whole. Regardless of how machine-oriented we become, regardless of how many automated systems come on board, we still need that machine. And research would show throughout the world, though, that people prefer to pick up a phone and call the bank and have a conversation with a person as opposed to a machine, right? But we are in a technological age where two must coincide, the two must meet, and they must, exist. Right. So the question for us, Joel, though, is how can we find a balance between our human resource and our machines, or that type of thing as well? And I think we are struggling to some degree in finding the balance between the two.
And where's the scale tipping?
I think the scale is still tipping towards creating a perfect human resource system as well as creating a perfect machine-oriented industry. I think we're still nowhere close in actually managing the two.
Right.
To be quite honest, I think that we are still struggling human resources, and I think that we are still struggling in dealing with the automated industry.
But where you think the employers, business people, society in general, where are they putting the emphasis now? With the technology or with...
I think, and I'll be very blunt about this because, of course, the show is tough talk. I think we have, for a long time, never put the type of resources in developing our people resource. Now with the movement of the automated industry in terms of the machines and stuff, we are going in that direction, and we are forced to go in that direction to keep up with globalization, right? But the problem here is managing the fallout with the human capital, and we are not managing that well. So here it is that we are pushing in a more machine-oriented society, but we are not even letting go of the humanistic side of things in a proper way. So I remember on the radio the other day, there was a question whether or not trade unions are relevant anymore now.
Yes.
Because we are so moving in a stage where the workforce is being cut every single day. The question for us, Joel, is how can we manage effectively our human resource as well as manage the other part of the industry?
You mentioned fallout, and of course that's a big issue. What exactly is the fallout from not paying attention to the human resource?
The fallout is one, we are changing over systems where people would have operated for a number of years. And I remember I worked in a company a couple of years ago where I witnessed this. So, you know, you are a machine operator, for example, and somewhere along the line you brought in a machine that becomes a machine operator.
Right.
What happens to the people who have been working there for 15, 20 years, right? You give them a visa package. Are they ready to go home, number one? Are they prepared to go home, number one? What level of anxiety and depression are we now bringing onto the workforce? Where are we, you know, finding the balance between who is kept and who is sent home? How are we managing this process? So more and more we find that people are becoming unsettled in their work environment because at any point, the machines can come. Now, while that can happen, I think what we need to do is find ways in which we can develop systems for them. For example, retraining, right? Why can't we retrain, redeploy, retool? You have a man working as a machine operator for 15 years, you tell him on Monday that he's no longer needed. What happens now, right? Because the next company is saying he's too old to be employed.
But is that a real fear in Trinidad and Tobago that people feel that machines are replacing them?
But I see it. I see it a lot. I see it where people are becoming more and more worried because more and more companies are finding it profitable, more efficient, more effective to go that route. Now, don't get me wrong, we need to go there because of globalization in order to keep up. But my concern is how are we treating our human capital? How are we treating our human resource? How are we managing our people? And I think for a large degree, our people have been left behind in this race.
Yeah. Let me play a devil's advocate for a while. And if I'm an employer, I have 50 members of staff. I get a machine that can do the work of 10 of them, right? So therefore I'm downsizing. I get a machine that's going to help improve my bottom line. You talked about retooling, retraining them, but I don't have anywhere to put them. Even if I retrain them, I may hire one or two in a different area of my company. What happens to the 8?
You see, because we are not thinking nationally. When I speak about retooling, reshaping, I'm not just speaking about retooling, reshaping for your company.
Right.
I am talking about retooling, reshaping so that they become marketable on the open market. We are giving them a fair chance. That is what we are doing. We need to understand, Joel, that it is linked to our society. It is linked, our human resources are linked to our families, our communities, our churches, our schools. This is linked. So when you say to this 10 persons here now, listen, that's it for you, and there is no retooling, there is no retraining, what happens then? What happens to the families of those 10? For that 10 people that we're talking about, we can almost look at 100 if we were to delineate this thing properly. We're looking at 100 or more going to be now negatively affected by this. So the retraining and the retooling is not just for your company, but I think it's a duty we have if we are going that way to help move our people forward.
But why invest in retraining and retooling if I'm not going to keep you?
Because of society.
So they need to look at the bigger picture.
And that is what, I'm very happy that you bring that up, the bigger picture, because we don't look at the bigger picture. We don't look at the bigger picture. I say to unions, we don't look at, and I tell unions without any fear, you all don't look at the bigger picture. We don't look, that is what we need to be fighting for.
And what is the bigger picture for unions?
The bigger picture is a better, productive person, a better productive society, a better productive individual. That is who we are going for. When I speak about a better productive, I'm talking about human resources, I'm talking about mental health, I'm talking about stress, anxiety, depression, physical ailments. We go into the doctor more. We are less productive. Man hours are being lost every day. We are becoming less educated, or we are only becoming educated because of a requirement. That is what when I speak about the bigger picture, that is what I mean when I say taking a country forward. That is what I refer to in terms of building a people. You see, Joel, what is going to happen here? Like when I drive through Port of Spain, because I lived abroad for some time, and when I came back here, I was very impressed. I mean, I often give the story that I got lost at Grand Bazaar intersection, right? Because it was so, you know, I was really shocked.
Right.
But I keep saying to myself, and I keep saying to colleagues, you can build all the building in the world. If the people you are putting in the buildings are not up to scratch, then the building becomes null and void. And that is what we have, empty shells. And it is time that we start to look at our human, you know, the person. You know, employers, unions need to look at the person. Why am I, you know, dealing with so many sick leave? What about the man hours, overtime? Why is this thing happening? And nobody's addressing that.
Interesting point, and I'll come back to some of the issues that you raised there. But I wanted to point out and remind our viewers that you're free to join the conversation at any time. The lines are open. But the Central Statistical Office measured our productivity some time ago, and the IADB as well looked at us, and they identified that labor-related challenges affecting the future sustainability and competitiveness, particularly of the manufacturing sector in Trinidad and Tobago. They identified some of those challenges as, number one, low levels of labor productivity, high absenteeism and turnovers, shortage of skilled local employees, difficulty retaining best employees, and low knowledge transfer. What the common thread right there was the people, you know, the people,
Yeah.
low levels of productivity, high absenteeism, shortage of skilled local employees, difficulty retaining best employees, and low knowledge transfer. And coming out of that, I wanted to ask you, do we, in your experience and interactions, do we have a work ethic problem?
Yes, yes. That goes without saying. We see it every single day. Every day. I mean, in the last 3 weeks, I've been dealt with 2 severe cases. And I can tell you, one, I went to a hardware, very prominent hardware in Trinidad. I wouldn't call the name. And I'll be honest, I don't know about types of screws and because we were building an office. So
but hold one moment for that point. We have a caller from Diego Martin. Caller, welcome to the program.
Check the bedroom on the phone.
You're on the air, caller. From Diego Martin.
Hello.
Welcome. Yes.
Nice to join the program, the conversation. My first time to this show, right?
Oh, welcome.
I just want to say the gentleman there made a very valid point in terms of the human capacity about developing them and training and things. I experienced one of the utilities places in Trinidad and like lights in office. And the smart point of what you just said, very good point. You could see the people are not trained properly for true. The way they deal with the public, their first impression gives you a very bad, the way they answer you, the way they present themselves. They don't understand that it's a service they give and they're being paid for that service. And I'm saying that most of the institutions, even in the health sector, you go to the hospital, they're in distress, and the way the people are, the front people you're meeting and the person interaction, they are not treating you well. You know, I'm trying to say, I agree with the gentleman there. I don't know his name, but he made a very valid point. And the reason why he speaks this way, so because he lives away, he lives abroad, and he sees they found a way of the way to do things. I just came from the United States, so I'm so impressive. I don't know if you know this area, in terms of the 25 along New Jersey there. I don't know why they're not bringing some of these things to the country when they go away. These things to them. And the way how they want to bottleneck we have in this country. And they're not bringing these ideas that we see from engineers abroad to try to alleviate a lot of these problems that we have. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to interact and speak to you. Thank you very much. I'll continue to watch the program. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Our guest is Hanif Benjamin, he's the CEO of the Center for Human Development Limited. And I think the caller is pointing to a problem that we are all aware of, which is customer service and the lack thereof, really, in Trinidad and Tobago. But not to lose your point, you were telling us the story of your hardware experience.
Into what the caller said. So I don't know these things. So I came to get some stuff for the contractor, and I asked the gentleman, and the gentleman told me that is why I have eyes to read. That is what he told me.
And you are about to purchase from him.
Correct. Right? That is why you have eyes to read. Right? I went to a fast food to buy food for the very set contractors. and I made a purchase, and then I decided to add some more stuff. And she said, well, listen, I don't like to be cashing so much, And I said, thank God that's why you're the cashier, because, you don't like to cash this much. And it goes to show that we are nowhere ready to deal with the people. We are nowhere ready, and as the caller is saying, people are not trained enough, they are not developed enough to manage people, to manage difficult situations. They are not trained enough in their craft, right? There is no, people just looking for a work, it seems. So there is no investment in their craft, taking time to understand, and even dispensing some common courtesy. And we find that just one thing.
And we want to dig behind that a little bit to see if it's the individual alone or if it's a wider societal problem. But we'll take a break now, and when we come back, we are talking the human resource issue and how it contributes to the bottom line and productivity in Trinidad and Tobago. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Tough Talking Thursday. We are talking with Hanif Benjamin, the CEO for the Center of Human Development, and we're talking HR, we're talking productivity, and how HR is linked to the bottom line and productivity, particularly in the public sector. Just before we went to the break, we were talking about work ethic, Hanif, and the lack of customer service that is so widespread in Trinidad and Tobago. But can we blame our employees only? Do the employers have a role to play in this, a contribution to make in improving customer service generally?
When you read out the statistics from the Central Statistical Office, I keep writing the question, just why? Why are these things important? And it is linked now to the question you're asking me in terms of, is it that the employee is solely responsible? And the answer is no. The answer is no, right? Every time a customer, every time an employee behaves this way, for example, the man or the woman at the fast food restaurant, I see the bigger picture. I ask myself, what is the philosophy of this company? The manager, the supervisors, the directors, the franchise, the owner, the franchisee owner, all of these people play a very important role. And when you link with people in the industry, they tell you, they want more for less, right? No encouragement. They don't want to give you training and development, but they want you to go out there and do miracles, literally. While I say to these customer service reps that nobody has to train you courtesy, that is something that you should have naturally. So I give you that 100%. But then what comes along is the frustration with all of that. The frustration of not knowing, the frustration of difficulty. I went to a hardware again, and everybody was cussing in the hardware, right? Because it was the public holiday on the Saturday, and the employees were accustomed on public holidays leaving at 12. But somehow, because it was a Saturday, there was an expectation that you would leave at 2. Right. So you have clients, customers, and you just cussing because everybody mad. And I'm saying, when you saw the boss who came out and started to cuss and carry on, it tells you why for the past couple of days I was getting that type of treatment from the workers. Because it is a philosophy, so it is how they operate. So to me, it is a wider discussion as it relates to your organization goals and objective, and whether or not everyone shares that goals and objective, whether or not everyone is seeing your mission and vision. Or is it that your mission and vision is shared by just a few and everybody else just come for a walk? And that is why you talk about the high turnover,
yes,
right? I remember Pizza Hut, that franchise, Pizza Hut and Prestige Holdings, talking, and I think it was a consultative discussion, and they were talking about they are the wits' end. They don't know what to do to keep employees, right? Because the turnover is really, 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 really fast. And you ask yourself, why? Why does no one choose to stay, right? And it's a question that we have not been answering in this country.
I mean, coming off of that, traditionally in the business world, it seems that HR, the HR unit, has been just that unit to do the paperwork to hire people and fire people if needs be. And there has not been a traditional approach from the top to bring HR into strategic planning, for instance, and to really make the link between HR and the bottom line. Why is that so? I'm not saying that that is for all, but certainly it has been traditionally so, and it may be changing. But why? Why is it so difficult for us to see the link and the direct link between our human resource and our bottom line?
Unfortunately, Joel, for a long time, well, as long as I remember in the workforce, HR represented just that. The people who sign off on your hire packet,
Yes.
the people who you go when you want vacation, the people who you go to when you are ready to retire, or the people who call you when they're ready to send you home.
Right.
That is what we know HR to be. What international and where we should be going, and there are some companies that practice this, right? Industrial psychology, developing of a people, right? Change management, right? I mean, all of these things are part of HR, but it is not seen, it is not shared with your wider community in terms of your workforce. So people believe that HR is just what it is, to sign paper and to go and check sick leave and how much vacation I have.
Right.
Unfortunately, we are not seeing HR as a strategic partner in agencies where you are charged with the responsibility to develop your employees. And I think it is gross negligence to have an HR department that is not charged with developing an employee. Right? How do you move employees? And I often say to people when we do leadership course and leadership training, what is your vision for an employee? If you tell me your vision is just to come and make glass, then you have a very tunnel vision. If that is all your vision is for your employee, then you have a very tunnel vision. I must hear that you want to develop this person. What is this person's personal wish, their joy, what they want to accomplish as a person? It must be tied in to the overall goals and objective for the company. How are you meeting the employee goals and objective and that of the company's goal and objective? Are we having commingling of the two?
But if I am making glasses, you put it, I'm making these glasses and selling them and making a lot of profit, and people come over and over and purchase them, why should I then divert some of my profit into developing that human resource when this continues to sell, regardless of whether I do it or not?
But then I ask a question. Let us look at bottom line. And I often like to look at that, because that is where everybody goes to, bottom line. When we look at the bottom line, how many glass makers would you have had to train in the last 10 years? Because you did not take a moment to strategically align that glass maker. So he left, or she left. So now you have to train another glass maker. And while, yes, the glasses are on the shelves being sold, what it is you have here, what type of team you would have created. And that is where the challenge is for me. That is where we are not paying the attention. Is it that this man had he or she been pruned and groomed, maybe they would have come up with a different version of the glass that would create even more money. But you missed that opportunity because now he's either making glass elsewhere or he's doing something else, primarily because you did not take the time, effort, and or energy to work with that glass maker.
So you lose them, you have to hire somebody else. Your profit is still turning over, but you are not seeing your cost savings
Of course.
that could have occurred.
Correct.
The opportunity
Correct.
cost of that.
Correct. And that is a big conversation that I want to have with unions and HRs and leaders, because we are not understanding that it is not just about your glass. We have become so selfish that we think everything is about us. But it is not. Everything is inexplicably linked in a society. Right? When you talk about man hours being lost, when you talk about sick leave, when you talk about vacation, no pay leave, now people are so fed up they take no pay leave and they don't even stress anymore. Yeah. When that happens in our organization, you tell yourself that, hey, look, I don't even need the pay anymore. I just don't want to be here. Wow. It tells you that you have lost your human resources, your human capital. It tells you that people no longer have joy to be here. What type of employees, what type of system are you running?
How do you then, if I'm an employer, how do you motivate your employees?
I think motivating happens on many levels, many levels. And I often give the story of when I was a program director in the United States over a program. And money is a social service agency, so you know money tight.
Absolutely.
So, but I always get into my office at 6 a.m. because I wanted to beat the traffic most times.
Right.
And to get a park, of course. And I
suppose
was
the
driving
same
through the
applies
Bronx.
here.
Yes, I was driving through the Bronx, and it was the beginning of spring. And I remember I bought these little, it was $2 for one, flowers, and I placed on all 8 of my staff desks. And people said corny, but they knew that there was no money to be given. But Mr. Benjamin appreciated them in his own way. Simple. I know that sometimes when you have program, and we see it a lot in government agencies, coming down to the end of budget year, if money is unused, you want to use it. So, you know, you buy stuff. And I would always go downtown and say, hey, what we getting this year? And I would always ensure that my staff get the best chair or get the best computers, things that can aid them in their respective jobs. So it doesn't always have to be about money. My staff needed training and development. I ensured that we roster staff so that they can go to night school, they can go to Saturday school, right? All of these things are critical, and when employees see you doing these simple things, they appreciate that, and they are motivated to give more to the company. They are motivated to give more time, effort, energy.
Did you see an impact on the bottom line as a result?
Of course. Every other division within the company I work for were turning over staff constantly. I did not turn over in 2 years, not one staff. As a matter of fact, I was in the car outside having a conversation with one of my mentees who told me that she's now the program director of the very set program that I brought her into 4 years ago, right today. And it tells you that they come, people don't only look for the dollar. They want the intrinsic as well as the other types of benefits. But we have a notion, union and HR, that everybody just want mighty dollar.
Yes. We have a call on the line from Freeport. Caller, welcome to the program.
Thank you. I just wanted to touch a bit on productivity. It's not always a reflection of the employees only. I think the employer has a lot to do with the productivity as a whole. Like your boss has to be motivating, cannot be talking down to the employees too much, because this would affect their morale, and that would ultimately affect the productivity as a whole.
Point taken, caller. Thank you. I think he captured some of what we were just talking about.
Indeed.
You can't lay the blame only at the employee's feet, but certainly the employer has a role to play in motivating employers, and as you said, the non-monetary stuff goes a long way as well. You know.
I think we have the mentality that you're working for me and I'm paying you, so that's it. There's nothing else to be had from this. Right? You come and get your salary and you keep it moving. But I tell people it's not always about the salary. It is not always about the salary.
But what does this sell to employers? What does this sell to employers to change behavior?
I think that is where the critical analysis comes. Why should I change a behavior? Why should I change?
That is working for me at this point in time.
But that is what they think it is working for them. They think that. But I want you again to analyze sick leave. I want you to analyze time off, vacation. That is what we're not analyzing. Because we are seeing the glasses being made, or because we are seeing a profit, we are not analyzing exactly the intricacies that go into this. When you look at your man hours for a year due to sick leave, what does that tell you? I want you to quantify sick leave for me. And I say that, I remember we did a training with an organization. I said, let us quantify your sick leave. Tell me how much is an average, because you have different pay rate, $55 or $60. Let us now get a mean figure, and let us quantify the 300 and how much sick leave hours you had. And let us put a figure to that. Now add that figure to your bottom line for me. Right? I want you to then talk about your insurance that you are paying for employees, if you're paying at all. Tell me how many of them access the insurance that you gave them. Tell me how many and what were the ailments that people were accessing. And I tell them, add that now to your bottom line. That is all they look at. And I'm saying it is more intricate than that. It is more deeper than that. We have to look at the overall picture. We have to look at why people are taking sick leave, why it is people are gunning at 3:59. Car park clear. Why is that? Why is that? And people are not understanding that those are critical factors that must be taken into consideration.
Do you think flexi time is catching on in Trinidad and Tobago, and do you think it's a way we should be going?
It's not catching on fast enough for me.
Yes.
I have a serious problem with that, right? Because I cannot understand why we all have to go to work for 8 and leave at 4 or 5. It makes no sense to me, right? And I think that major companies need to look, and more so the government services need to look and see whether flexi time, well, not see, because it has been proven throughout the world as one of the most effective use of manpower, human resources, as well as productivity. Because I tell you, the same, let's just use one agency. The same staff that all comes in, 100 staff comes in for 8 and leave at 4. If we break it down into percentages and we have 20% coming at 6, some coming at 10, some coming at 12, it means then that you wouldn't have to leave your job or take a day off from your job to get business done at that particular agency, because now you can go 6 in the morning or you can go 5 in the evening and be guaranteed that you're going to get service. What it also means then that I would not spend 4 hours a day in traffic, because that is what it takes me now, 4 hours. That is almost a shift. You almost working a shift on the road. So now I have to get up at 4 or 3:30 every morning as opposed to 6 to come to Port of Spain to a meeting. I live in South, to come to a meeting for 8 o'clock in the morning, right? So it tells us that we are losing productivity throughout the country because of the amount of time we spend on the road. And this can be easily solved by flexi time. Not only that, people can get greater service, more productivity, people can get what they want without having to take sick leave, without having to call in, when we're sick, we don't go to the doctor sick, but we call in sick. And all of those things will change, and I've seen it work.
But do you think who is pushing for it more? Are the employees wanting it and the employers resisting a bit, or do the employers want it and the employees hesitant to
I
grab
think
it?
the employees seem more keen on getting it done, because I think and I could give you another, for example, I have a friend of mine, she goes to the ministry and she's there 6 o'clock every morning, right? And unfortunately, she cannot leave earlier, so she has to sit there until 4. And she's the type of woman who, she wouldn't go for 6 and sit down and watch the walls until 8. So she works, right? So there are employees who are saying, listen, move me around so that I can be better at what I'm doing, more effective. Let me tell you what coming into work 8 o'clock does for a person. You get up at 3. You go through this traffic, and you know our driving are very, very polite on the road. We are extremely polite. So by the time I get to Port of Spain, I would have had about 4 near-death encounters, right? Probably 2 cuss out. Right. And yeah. So I'm going to get to the office, Joel, and I'm going to be anxious. I can't settle, my mind not settled. So in actuality, I'm not even getting ready to work. I'm not in a work frame. Right. So you know what's going on with the first set of customers that I see?
They get your great customer service.
Right, they're getting your reverberation. That is what happens now. And I'm saying, let us look at students. It's the same thing. Right, our student getting at that time, and everybody's flustered, and now we have to push, we have to pump according to young people. So we pump it now that hour of the morning. and we're angry, we slamming drawers, we disoriented because of that journey. What does it mean as well? It means at 10 o'clock you're yawning. 11 o'clock you want to go on lunch. Right by the door, well, let's not even look at after lunch. Right. You're dead for it.
Productivity has dropped big time.
And the caller talk about productivity. That is why the statistical offices say that productivity is extremely low, because we are tired more. We have to be up longer hours. We are no longer enjoying time at work because it is pressured from the time you get there, right? So when you put all of that together, I think the argument for flexi time is very well poised.
Mm-hmm. I think the point was made a couple of years ago. There was a call from government for the nation's productivity to increase, because statistics, the research is showing that productivity has been falling in Trinidad and Tobago for a couple of years. And in response to that, the Business Association said there needs to be a greater consideration of the factors affecting the workforce and their mental state when they arrive at work. And they cited things like unreliable public transport system, the traffic pileup, flash flooding, you know.
Look at that, I didn't even read the report, look at that.
My point is, are we too stressed?
We are beyond, you know, I have been beating the drums. We are a highly stressed society. Mm-hmm. We are highly stressed. Our environment stresses us, our family life stresses us, our employment stresses us. We are a stressed society. Now I want to delineate that for you.
Yes,
I want to break it down. What does a stressed society mean? It means the journey to Port of Spain, like what I tell you, 4 cuss out, 4 near-death experience. We are stressed. The man really cussing me, you know. You understand? He's not really cussing me, it's displaced anger, right? When you talk about the sick leave, when I do leadership training, I ask everyone, how many of you took sick leave in the last month? Almost 90% every time, raise a hand. Were you sick? I needed a mental day. And I'm hearing that constantly. I just needed to be away.
Let's hear this caller from Carney. Did you need a mental day anytime soon, caller? Welcome to the program.
Yeah, good night.
Good night.
What I want them to speak about is the effect of carbon monoxide on the traveling public who are workers going to perform and have to give service to the very set people experiencing the same thing. Because from my experience over the years, you reach in the office feeling very sleepy and tired. I would like an expert opinion on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, caller. We'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll address the caller's concerns. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Tough Talking Thursday. We're talking with Hanif Benjamin. He's the CEO for the Center for Human Development. And we're talking about human resource issues, productivity. Just before we went to the break, he was telling us that most employees have been asking for a mental health day. Just the stress and getting to work is lowering our productivity when we do get to work. And we had a caller just before we went to the break who asked you about carbon monoxide and the impact on his health and when he gets to work, and of course the eventual impact on productivity and the bottom line.
No, and you know, based on my limited knowledge on carbon monoxide from chemistry in school, we know what it does to people. But the point that he's making, though, is that we sit in traffic upwards 2.5 hours. Right? For me, because I live in South, it's upwards 4.5 hours every day. So it tells you that, of course, there will be effects. And I'm calling on the relevant authorities to let us study. That is something we don't do in Trinidad a lot. There is no empirical data because we are afraid to study these things because we always have a problem when it might give us a negative light, right? So the powers that be should be studying the effects of carbon monoxide in the amount of cars. We have traffic 24/7 every day. Every day is Sunday to Sunday. So what is that doing for a person who drives as much as I am on the road, or people who are taking maxis, taxis, and buses and stuff like that? So definitely, I think it will affect people. Not only that, you're getting up, the hours you are getting up now to come to work means that you are sleeping less. Right? You're going to bed later because of family. You're coming home later because of transportation. I drove past City Gate. City Gate on an evening is a war zone. It's a war zone, and I imagine you have to fight like that after a hard day's work to go home, and you have to fight like that to come to work in the morning. Definitely we are stressed, and more people are saying that they're taking more and more sick leave, and that is why I'm saying to people, let us look at our bottom line as it relates to man hours lost, sick leave, and doctor bills, right? In those training, I ask people, how many times you went to the doctor? You go to the doctor, my back hurting, my foot, and the doctor saying, well, I've not seen anything wrong. And you're doing test after test after test. Joel, all of that came from stress. Stress has a way of physiological symptoms as well as psychological symptoms, and we are not paying attention to those symptoms. And it is telling us every day that our bodies and our mind cannot take this level of stress. And as a result of that, productivity suffer. You come on the job and you cannot give 100%, not because you don't want to, but because you just can't. There is no way you can function. And then when you talk about a system that is not human resource friendly, that is compounding stress, more stress upon the human resource. And therefore, we have what is called our sub. So we are not operating at optimum.
But are these messages getting to our employers? Are they getting to the places that they need to get to effect change?
I don't think so. I don't see it happening. And if it's happening, it's not happening as fast and as widespread as it needs to. I think that, first of all, we are still so taboo about mental health and mental well-being that it is not getting there. But I am excited to know that I know there are some conferences coming down later this year, and I know I have to talk, and I'm supposed to go up to Dominica as well to talk about wellness and in the workplace and stuff like that. And it really speaks to employers understanding, not only that, the people who should be looking out for the employees, who are our unions, and I'm giving a direct call to all union leaders, call me, let us have a conversation, because the time has changed. The time has come for employees to be protected, not just for $1 or $2, but they need to be given other types of protection that we are not protecting. We have to protect people against mental disease, mental effects, stress, psychological degradation. We need to protect our employees against that. And we are not doing that. That is where the conversation is. I want to hear around the table, with not only that we discuss 14%, 15%, 20%, but I want to talk about how are you developing my employees? How are you giving them what they need to?
But isn't that part of the role of our trade unions to advocate?
Well, that is what I'm talking
on
about.
behalf of their employees for things like those?
Of course. And that is what my call is to the trade union leaders.
So are you saying they're not doing enough of that?
I don't think that they're doing enough as it relates to those other types of benefits. You see, we keep looking for this tangible benefit, and we're not understanding. I keep telling people, look at the research. In order for you to feel a raise in your pay, you have to get a raise of over $10,000 to feel anything. Because when you talk about you moving into a next tax bracket, the money is being eroded there, then things are going to grow up in the grocery, so you don't feel it. So we have to look at other ways in which people can benefit. And we are not looking at it. It's not just about 10%, 15%, but how are we treating our employees, our mental well-being, our psychological well-being? What is our stress levels in our workplace? How are we reducing stress levels? How are we improving on processes? How are we training our employees so that they can represent the company?
But part of it must be the mindset of employees, because you offer me a pay increase, I see the dollar signs rolling over, and I'm saying, yeah, I want to do what I want to do with my money, rather as opposed to you tell me that, you know what, you could come in a couple hours later and work on your own timing. At the end of the month, if I think my salary is low, I would opt for the salary increase. So perhaps there is some need to reach out to the employees and perhaps change their mindset too. Is that influencing how trade unions go to the bargaining table?
I think what we need to do is educate. We're not educated enough about trade unionism, about wellness, about mental health, about psychological health. And I said, just look at your family. Look at the time you leave and the time you come home. You're spending less time with your families, right? So you're leaving in the morning when your children are sleeping, and you're coming back when they're asleep. You might peep at them over the weekend. Look at the quality of life that we live with our families. And Joel, to be quite honest with you, people that I've spoken to, situation that I've been in, is saying to us that people prefer, while finances are indeed important, people also prefer the other stuff that cushions me.
So the research is showing that.
Of course it is. It is showing us that, listen, while the finances are good, yes, but you know what, maybe I could do it 5 more days vacation, because the job is a stressful job. You're working in a high-stress environment, maybe rather than 10 days, maybe I could do it 15. And an employee will be very happy to get that. Maybe, you know what, rather than come in at a strict time, maybe we could talk to your supervisor and we can have flexi time once we meet our deliverables.
Right.
But an employee will be afraid to do that because they think they'll get ducked and they'll get cut and they will stuff like that. So education has to happen across the board. Joel, the bottom line here is that our human resources have been failing for a long time. It has not taken the prominence it needs. And I think the time has come for both union and employers to rethink the way we are operating businesses, to rethink the way we are managing people. Because people are becoming more stressed. When you become more stressed, you are less productive. When you become less productive, the country suffers.
And you pointed to education. You think we need to start this type of education at the primary school level or even lower?
Of course, because we're not managing it, I mean, in all levels. Because, you know, the children are dragged into this. Huh?
Absolutely.
It pains my heart when I leave my house at 4 o'clock to see a mother and her daughter in uniform standing at the road waiting for a taxi at 4 a.m. What kind of productivity that child is going to give off when she gets to school and she's tired? Not to mention, as the parent, you could go and you could have a cup of coffee at 8, 9, 10, 11. You could go, you know what, I'm going on the road and buy a snack. But can that child go and say, you know what, miss, I'm hungry right now, you know, so I go in my lunch kit. You know what, I go down to the cafeteria. They tell you you're mad. They'll tell you you're disrespectful. So now we have children who are sleeping in class. The teachers are frustrated. The children are frustrated. The children have less productivity as well. So it means then that their results are getting worse and worse because they are not able to put out the amount that they want to put out. Not to mention at 3 o'clock you need to go to lessons till 6. Yeah?
Yeah, yeah. And if a very interesting discussion tonight. We could talk another hour perhaps on this, but time has run out on us. I want to thank all our viewers for joining us tonight. We talked productivity issues, of course, and HR. And I want to thank, of course, Hanif Benjamin, the CEO for the Center of Human Development, for joining us tonight and really giving us a lot of food for thought. And I trust that it reaches to the ears and hearts of those who can effect change. Have a good evening and join us again next week for another program.